Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kyoto on a wonderful autumn day. Her Imperial Highness, Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to the 4th World Conference on Tourism and Culture, Investing in Future Generations. Here in Kyoto, a city where centuries of Japanese culture and creativity are tangible in every corner, making it a worldwide known cultural destination. Now, this is the first time Kyoto is hosting the UNWTO and UNESCO World Conference on Tourism and Culture. The previous editions were held in Siem Reap, Cambodia in 2015, in Muscat, Oman in 2017, and last year in Istanbul, Turkey. Now, let me explain to you the aim of the conference is to gather different stakeholders of tourism and culture to exchange policies and specific initiatives impacting the future of both sectors. This event will feature different approaches of government, local, and indigenous communities, tourism, destinations, cultural and research institutions, creative, private sector, technology, developers, media, and academia. It will shed light on the results of implemented initiatives that were not only valuable for the cultural tourism sector, but also for the coordinated uses of tourism and culture as mechanisms to form inclusive, ethical, and diverse societies. This conference has been jointly organized by the Japan Tourism Agency, the Agency for Cultural Affairs of the Government of Japan, the Kyoto Prefecture, the City of Kyoto, the World Tourism Organization of the United Nations, and the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Now, if I may briefly introduce myself, I'm Michio Ishida, Senior Correspondent for CNA, formerly known as Channel News Asia. Channel News Asia, CNA, is based in Singapore, available, viewed in 29 countries in the Asia-Pacific and some parts of the Middle East, and I'm based in Tokyo. It's a great pleasure for me to be here in Kyoto, the ancient capital of Japan for 1,000 years. I was here in July, and I covered some of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites for my own program. I also have a grandfather who actually studied here in Kyoto, and also a father. Now, it is a great pleasure for me to be with you here, and we can proudly say that we have brought together people from all over the world at this conference to open up intercultural dialogue and discourse between the culture and tourism sectors with the purpose of promoting cultural tourism that is diverse and sustainable. We will now proceed with the opening of the 4th World Conference on Tourism and Culture, Investing in Future Generations. Now, before we proceed further, I would like to ask everyone to switch off your phone or put it on silent mode. It's my great pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Hirofumi Kado, Parliamentary Vice Minister of Land Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism of Japan. Mr. Kado?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for introduction. My name is Hirofumi Kado, the Parliamentary Secretary for the Ministry of Land Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism. I'd like to congratulate the opening of the 4th UNWTO UNESCO International Conference on Tourism and Culture, and to all of the UNWTO UNESCO officials, ministers from each country, government officials, and everyone related to tourism and culture who made their way to Kyoto, the Asian capital of Japan. Welcome to all of you. Ms. Ueno from the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology, who is in charge of culture in Japan, also came here today. will give a speech on behalf of the host country. Tourism and culture have an inseparable relationship. Kyoto flourished as the capital for over 1,000 years, and its culture attracts many tourists today. By eliminating the culture of each region, people will visit them, and not only is a great economic ripple effect created in the regions as a result, but also exchanges and friendships with local residents. In this way, while local culture is a powerful tourism resource, tourism can also place a burden on the culture. This year at the G20 Tourism Ministers meeting hosted by Japan, we actively exchanged opinions with other countries on the benefits of tourism and the protection of the natural environment and culture and development of local regions. At the end of the meeting, the Kuchan Hokkaido Declaration was adopted, and the G20 countries agreed to work on tourism management that would benefit both visitors and local communities, and to promote tourism that achieves both the protection and utilization of culture. Currently, the Sustainable Tourism Promotion Headquarters has been established at the Japan Tourism Agency, and based on this declaration, we are promoting the creation of tourism areas where people can both live and visit. This conference is an important international conference that discusses global issues such as the succession of the traditional culture, utilizing tourism, and the promotion of mutual understanding through cultural tourism. Based on the G20 Tourism Ministers meeting held in October, I would also like to deepen discussions with each country on these themes and reflect them in our policies. This conference is a great opportunity to share the latest knowledge with the people from all over the world and Japan to unite tourism and culture more than ever before. I hope there will be a full discussion of the development of both tourism and culture. Last but not least, I wish the International Conference on Tourism and Culture be a meaningful event. I thank you very much for your kind attendance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Mr. Hirofumi Kado, Parliamentary Vice Minister of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism of Japan. Next, we'd like to welcome Mr. Shinshu, Deputy Director General of UNESCO.
Her Imperial Highness Princess Akiko of Mikasa, Executive Director of the World Tourism Organization. Excellencies, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Director General of UNESCO, it is my great pleasure to join you here today for the opening of the 4th UNWTO UNESCO World Conference on Culture and Tourism. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the government of Japan and to the city of Kyoto for hosting this event. I would also like to take this opportunity to commend Japan for its unwavering commitment and support to the culture and UNESCO's mission. Welcome you all, experts, delegates, and representatives of civil society who have traveled here to reflect on the key issue facing tourism and cultural heritage. International tourism is booming. In 2018, there were 1.4 billion international tourist arrivals, compared to an estimated 25 million in 1950. Tourism generated $1,451 billion in 2018, an increase of 4.4% on 2017. This has considerable benefits for host communities. Financially speaking, tourism generates income through sales of tickets and products, transport, accommodation, catering, and hospitality. This, in turn, drives local employment and helps create a positive image of the territory and the people it is home to. But tourism does not benefit only host communities. For travelers, tourism is a window onto other cultures, other traditions, and other worlds. By showcasing local traditions, knowledge, and sites, tourism gives visitors an opportunity to discover other ways of life. This is especially true for cultural tourism, which features tangible and intangible heritage. In the words of Mark Twain, travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one small corner of the earth all one's lifetime. In short, by facilitating dialogue between cultures, tourism contributes to UNESCO's goal, as stated in our Constitution, to build peace in the minds of men and women, founded on the intellectual and moral solidarity of mankind. However, with the number of tourists crossing borders projected to reach 1.8 billion per year by 2030, tourism also gives rise to a number of challenges. Unplanned, uncontrolled, and poorly managed tourism can be disruptive for social, economical, and environmental reasons. Excessive visitor numbers can have a major impact on fragile sites, affecting biodiversity and ecosystems. Interactions between tourists and host communities can have lasting effects on local cultures. Tourism is also a contributor to climate change. Transport-related greenhouse gas emissions from tourism are on the rise. According to recent research, they currently account for 5% of all man-made emissions. And this figure could increase by 2030 if things is not done. In this context, sustainable tourism that takes into account its current and future impact is needed. UNESCO's landmark convention concerning the protection of the world cultural and natural heritage, adopted in 1972, plays a key role in supporting sustainable tourism. In acknowledging the importance of cultural and natural heritage, it encourages states parties to identify, protect, conserve, present, and transmit these resources for the benefit of the future generations. The convention gave rise to the World Heritage List, which now has 1,121 sites. Both heritage and tourism stakeholders share responsibility for the conservation of these sites to ensure sustainable development through appropriate tourism management. To this end, UNESCO works with heritage and tourism experts to develop new tools and programs around the globe. One of these tools is the World Heritage Journeys Initiative, which has been developed in collaboration with Natural Geographic, with support from the European Union and the Korean International Cooperation Agency, KOICA. As part of this project, An online platform, the website, visitworldheritage.com, has been developed to change how people travel to World Heritage sites. By showing these destinations in a new light, the website aims to encourage longer stays and a better experience of local culture, and therefore a deeper knowledge and appreciation of World Heritage values. Two major programs have been developed. The first focuses on European cultural heritage and features 34 sites in 19 countries. The other presents Buddhist cultural heritage in 3 different countries. We look forward to expanding the Buddhist platform next year in Thailand as part of a new partnership with the Expedia Group that includes a pledge on sustainable tourism to support culture and communities. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, UNESCO and UNWTO have worked together to strengthen the link between sustainable tourism and culture for almost 30 years. This series of joint conferences has become an important international platform for sharing best practices and encouraging alliances. Upon returning from his travels, Mark Twain said, "The excursion is ended and has passed to its place among the things that were. But its varied scenes and its manifold incidents will linger pleasantly in our memories for many a year to come." He was describing his trip to Europe and the Mediterranean. However, he could have been describing these conferences. Our discussions and debates will give rise to actions, the effects of which will be felt many years in future. I wish you all very fruitful discussions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you, Mr. Sheng Chu, Deputy Director General of UNESCO. Now we would like to welcome Mr. Manuel Butler, Executive Director of UNWTO. Mr. Butler, please.
Your Imperial Highness, Vice Minister of Japan, Tourism, Deputy Director General of UNESCO, Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to start by saying arigato gozaimasu to our gracious host for welcoming us to the historic city of Kyoto to celebrate the 4th UNWTO UNESCO World Conference on Tourism and Culture. Today and tomorrow, people from over the world will come to appreciate the unique cultural values of Japan and Kyoto's commitment in keeping its tradition alive for future generations. This week marks the 4th time that we have had the pleasure to collaborate with UNESCO on this conference. Over this time, we have been pleased to see advances in the topics discussed, keeping pace with real socioeconomic trends affecting culture and tourism on the ground. These trends are still shifting as we speak. Access to information and technology and the huge changes in the tourism sector that these have brought about continue to shape what cultural tourism can offer to people all around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, over the years, I have seen from my own experience the benefit that tourism can bring to millions of people. I have also sadly seen the negative impacts it can have on local cultures and communities when it is not properly managed. UNWTO's mandate is to support the development of a tourism that is inclusive, amplifying the good that tourism can bring to societies and their overall development. In line with this, UNWTO's Global Code of Ethics for Tourism has for 2 decades served as a policy framework, inspiring the adoption of legal, voluntary, and governance instruments that make tourism more sustainable, more responsible, and accessible to all. Earlier this year, the UNWTO Framework Convention on Tourism Ethics was adopted by the UNWTO General Assembly. This marks the first UNWTO convention in our history, a huge step for the organization that gives added legal and political weight behind the implementation of the principles laid out in the Global Code of Ethics. Dear friends, I would like to use this opportunity to invite all UNWTO member states to ratify and implement this convention. Only through this process can we make sure the principles laid down in the convention really contribute to the positive evaluation of the cultural tourism sector and tourism in general. The same General Assembly also saw the adoption of the recommendations on sustainable development of indigenous tourism. These recommendations, which UNWTO is proud to be launching online today, are geared towards harnessing the role of tourism and reducing the negative impacts it can have on indigenous communities. I would like to take a moment to thank the President of the World Indigenous Tourist Alliance, who is with us today and partner with us to draft these landmark recommendations. Ladies and gentlemen, interest in cultural tourism is set to increase in line with the forecast for the sector as a whole. But as we are all aware, growth alone will not lead to a sustainable future for cultural tourism. We hope that this conference will result in new partnerships, valuable research, and the necessary innovation to ensure that cultural tourism is driven by shared values, responsible behavior, and overall sustainability. Putting communities in the driving seat and enable them to effectively manage the development of tourism can successfully address the issues facing cultural tourism and boost its future prospects. International organizations, policymakers, the tourism industry, cultural stakeholders, and civil society need to create platforms that produce benefits both for tourists and for local citizens. Only by working together can we ensure that cultural tourism is a driver of economic stability, a sector that safeguards cultural heritage, protects the environment, and is equally accessible. It's our responsibility, our duty, to use the time we have here in Kyoto to address the challenges we face to the best of our endeavors. For the sake of our well-being and of generations to come, I wish everyone the best of success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Mr. Manuel Butler, Executive Director of UNWTO. Thank you very much. And thank you, gentlemen, for all your remarks, comments. They were very insightful on tourism. Now, after the opening words from the organizers, I now declare the 4th World Conference on Tourism and Culture, Investing in Future Generations, officially open.